Okay, thank you. My name is Jon Berkoe, and I'm the Director of Virtual Design and Construction at Synchro. And I manage a group that's called the Synchro Project Delivery Team, and that is what we do. We help customers deliver projects with our software. What I'd like to talk about is Synchro's view on innovation and enabling innovation through our software, but also through our people. Tom just defined innovation for me, but I actually looked it up. And the definition of innovation is actually quite simple. It simply says the introduction of something new. But what I'd like you to all think about is the subtle ambiguity of some of these words. In particular, what is an introduction? What really is an introduction? And what is new? So, in fact, you could think about what is something. But that's a little beyond what I want to talk about. So hopefully by the end of this talk, you'll have, your brain will be thinking a little bit more, not just about the idea of innovation, but the fact that maybe you've thought about it a little bit of a different way. So Greg gave a great view of introduction to Synchro, and in my view, Synchro is a platform that inspires and enables innovation. It's all about that. And speaking of innovation, it's really exciting to be speaking after Martin Fisher. It's always exciting to speak after Martin. I always learn more and more. I've actually known him for about 10 years through my previous career at Bechtel, being involved in Stanford's SciP program as Bechtel's representative sponsor. And now we are fortunate to have Synchro as a sponsor as well, so the continued involvement with SciP has been a learning experience for me. Since I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area, it's a privilege to be able to go down there and meet their students and work with them. And this whole background of VEC is really a core of what I'm going to talk about. When we get to innovation, Synchro inspires innovation, but more often than not, somebody needs to show how it's done. And that's just the nature of introducing something new. So back in 2014, we essentially asked ourselves, why don't we do this ourselves? And it seems like kind of an obvious thing that a software company should help customers implement the software, enable innovation. But I would argue that our company is unique, and I would argue that there literally is not another software company that does it the way we do it, to the level of degree of commitment that we have in extending the value of our software in the hands of our customers in the most powerful way possible. So the question is, how do you build the capability once you decide you're going to do this? It really comes down, from my perspective, it came down to two essential steps. One is develop a VEC-based strategy. That's the core foundation of how you're going to go about doing what you do. And hire people who are not only experts in Synchro, but who understand what VEC is all about. When you think about it, the earlier presentation talked on these topics, but I would venture to say that a lot of people that think about BIM, think about VEC, don't really appreciate the connection to 4D as thoroughly as they should. 4D is all about the virtualization of the process from design to construction. How do you enable that process? How can you possibly enable that process without 4D? 4D is literally the link between design and construction. In fact, without it, there is such a gap that I know from personal experience through my previous career that there's people in the construction world that literally don't understand what people in the design world are even doing because they can't build what they've designed. So you need to have this ability to form the bridge between the design process and the construction process. And virtual design and construction is the process, and 4D really grasps a lot of the core principles that are entrained in that whole process very effectively. And then when you think about the why, then you think about like questions that come up all the time. It's like, okay, I get it. Okay, so when am I supposed to do this? My design model is not evolved enough. My design model is evolved too much. My schedule is not evolved enough. My schedule is evolved too much. I don't do BIM. We don't use P6. I mean, there's just all these questions. And the bottom line is, you just do it. You do it early, and you do it continuously. You do it with the schedule, or you create the schedule. All these things you just go and do. And who should be involved in this process anyway? Is it a planner? Is it a BIM person? Who is it? It's everybody. And that's what you're going to see in a couple of the examples I'm going to present. It's not just that we enable innovation with using the software, it's enabling innovation through the entire ecosystem of people that are involved in the project. And I believe that there are basic requirements for project success that have to be delivered by 4D. It must bring construction schedule into focus. If it doesn't, you failed. It cannot exist in a silo. If it does, you failed. The output must be shared, what I call non-selectively. It must be democratized amongst all the people that need to consume it. If it's not, you failed. It must become a mindset for the project. It's not just a side job of somebody else to crank out a 4D animation. It needs to be the mindset of the project. If it's not, it's going to fail. And it must continue until the project is completed. If it doesn't, you may not fail, but you certainly won't succeed as much as you could have. Or in other words, people drive the 4D process. There are no exceptions. Technology, this is technology. 4D is about people. So our view in that, this graph literally hasn't changed in a few years because it's perfect, but it's pretty close to perfect. And this is not just a roadmap of implementing 4D, of implementing Synchro. It's our commitment to the industry. We are committed to enabling our customers to not just use our software, but to use it successfully in applications they may not have even thought of, or maybe if they thought of it, they may not know how to do it, and if they know how to do it, they may not know how to continue doing it, because it's the continuity that really matters. So a lot of our customers use the software at the beginning of the project, and that's how probably a lot of your companies do. You link a schedule and a model, you create a 4D animation, and it looks really cool. Everybody kind of has a good feeling about the project. But generally, people have a good feeling about projects at the beginning anyway. They always think they're going to come on, they're going to be finished on schedule and on budget. And I would argue that a schedule is never right. So as we move through the life cycle of implementation, we are seeing our customers innovate in fantastic ways that have to do with integrating resources, such as quantities and cost, into their 4D environment, enabling better and better constructability reviews that we saw some photographs of earlier. Actually getting into analytical exercises of evaluating risk and evaluating safety, evaluating the digital environment and using it to help virtualize the installation of complex construction sequences before they even get out in the field. I mean, why not do this? It makes total sense. And why not go into optimization? Why not use this tool instead of just feeling good about your schedule? Why not improve it? And then getting into the construction environment, utilizing the delivery mechanisms such as tablets and HoloLenses, but basically getting that data to the field and getting it back from the field to the planners so that everybody is participating. And this roadmap is not just our software company's vision, this is our commitment to the industry. If the industry fails to do this, we have failed as a software company. So after doing this for about a year, I would distill sort of in a nutshell maybe 4 bullets as to really, from a Synchro perspective, how do people drive innovation? What does it take? It's not an exhaustive list. But I would say expertise, number 1. But there is no 2, 3, and 4, they're all equal. I would say it's expertise, continuous focus, diversified perspective, and I'm happy to hear that there are a lot of engineers in this audience, construction people, there may be a few planners, I know there are in the front row. This diversified perspective is so empowering. And ultimately it comes down to teamwork, which actually in construction is one of its strong suits from my experience. There is a good sense of teamwork. So if you do the first 3 and you deliver them something they can work with, the teamwork will be taken care of. But of course there's always this challenge of finding people that have a passion for this and can do it. Not only can use the software, but can face the obstacles that it's going to take to introduce something new. So I would like to introduce you to our team in its current state, because everything I'm going to talk about from here on is not my work. So it's going to be the work of people here. This is Amir. Amir works in California. This is Jacqueline. Jacqueline works in California. This is Maria. Maria is here today. She works in London. This is Mazen. Mazen works in California. This is Shawa. He works in Southern California. We're all otherwise in Northern California. This is Pavel. Pavel's here today. He works in England. And this is Stanley. Stanley works in England. So these are the people that are working with you and working with our customers to help them become better users of Synchro and more effective users on their projects. And when you look for support, you will get help from Greg Demchek's product development team, but you will also be getting help from these people. Another unique aspect of our company is our support tickets are responded to by experts. And it doesn't take a long chain of emails and phone calls to get to that person. It takes literally one question. If it's a question that requires their ability, they will answer it. What do? So we do training. What is training the Synchro way? Training the Synchro way is the foundational means through executing BDC with Synchro. If we're not helping people understand how Synchro applies to their BDC process, we have failed in our training. Project participation. Project participation means either being an on-site resource or helping people on the project utilize our software with their particular data sets, with their particular workflow, with their particular models, so that they understand exactly what needs to happen. If they don't, we failed. And it's through industry engagement. We're out there. This is an example. This conference is an example. We do conferences. We do trade shows. We don't sell the product through sales and marketing that much, but we get out there and educate a lot. And these are things that we do on a regular basis. It's very important to us. So I want to talk about just the 3 examples of project engagements, just to give you an idea of sort of what this all entails, not only in terms of what we do, but really what's possible, because I have a feeling that at least in one of these examples, and probably all of them, you're going to learn something. So the first project is the Skanska project. Is Skanska UK. And it's the Battersea Power Station project, which is a landmark. This is a famous place. This is one of the original power plants in the world that's been decommissioned for a long time. And the City of London is going to convert this into a fabulous development that's for retail, park space, office space, residential space, conference space. And it's going to look something like this in the inside of the boiler house, which is going to be amazing. It's a very challenging project. It's not only huge, but the local infrastructure creates a lot of challenges. And in addition, the City of London is focusing on maintaining as much of the original material in this structure as possible. So there is a lot of not only construction work, but there is renovation and I guess you'd call reclamation in this project. And there are people in the audience here from this job who will talk about it more later. So hopefully I'm reasonably accurate assessment. This is just an aerial view of one stage of the construction. As you can see, it is massive. There are cranes all over the place. There is very little access roadway, and there are 2 major projects on either side of this project, and they are major, huge. This project is a logistical nightmare. So, Skanska is using Synchro for this job, and one of the main goals is to help manage logistical challenges of this project. And in order to do that, they've asked one of our people, in this case Maria, who is providing focused attention to this project by literally being there and executing the use of Synchro and bringing everybody together in terms of participating. I'm going to show an example of a couple forms of the output that it creates. A lot of users of Synchro, we've shown animations, everybody loves animations, but a lot of users, in my experience, love PDF. They love PDF output. They can get the data they need on the, let's just say, a sheet of paper or an electronic sheet of paper, and organize it the way they want, and then share the information with everybody on the team, cycling through a time sequence, which in this case is a steel construction sequence, occurring over weeks. And by doing this, you learn a few things. And in this project, they frequently have learned that there are schedule errors. Example is this one here, where scheduled activity to install some steel structure is going to block access to all the other work that's going on in the boiler house. much better to find that out early before you actually do the work. And that's just an example of PDF output being used for that. And there's participation. This is just one guy. I'm sure you'll hear more about him. The project's name is Peter, I think. And basically, it becomes organic. The model is on the monitor. The people in the room are making decisions. When they make decisions, they're not flipping through papers as much as they're going to the model and asking, what can we do about this? Or what is this? You get the idea. And the production of output is phenomenal on this job, thanks to Maria and Synchro software. This is not easy to do, but it's doable. It is possible, and we see it happen with our most advanced users. So this is an output in Irate. Greg talked about Irate, but it's more than just an output in Irate. This is a complex logistical sequence that's being used in a manner that allows planning and decision making to be done more effectively. And this just happens to be a very amazing piece. And I want to share a little bit of an anecdotal story, since it comes from Stanford again. So I was giving a presentation to a VEC class at Stanford, graduate class, because they're doing a couple case studies that we Synchro, and personally I am helping them with. And so I showed this model, and one of the students in the class said, well, how many people does it take to do this? How many people does it take to do this process and keep it going through the project? And I answered by saying, well, how many do you think? So in the meantime, I was sort of looking for a photograph, and the chatter in the classroom came up with an answer of, say, between 5 and 10 people to do this. And so I finally found my photograph of Maria. If you haven't met her, you should meet her. And I said, Maria does this 3 days a week with Skanska. So the answer to the question is 60% and Maria. And it's not just a point in regards to Maria's skill. It also highlights and illuminates the power of this software. People don't realize how much can be done with this software until they start to really do it. It literally is overwhelming at first, and then when they start doing it, it's amazing. I want to talk about another large project. If you've been to LAX Airport, I think it's the 4th busiest airport in the world, certainly one of the biggest. And they are building a new airport terminal. It's a multi-billion-dollar project. And the contractors there, Turner and PCL, and a joint venture. And this is a project with what I would call high-caliber BIM process. This project has a fantastic BIM execution plan. They have a team put together that is made up of experienced VEC specialists and leaders in BIM. And they have schedulers that appreciate the value of BIM and 4D. And what they also have is they have a 4D scheduler. That 4D scheduler happens to come from Synchro, and he's assigned there for a year, and that was Shawa. I'll show the picture of Shawa's picture. And this, I want to bring up the point of what's called the 4D scheduler, or the 4D planner. There really isn't a name. In fact, maybe it's just the Synchro expert. But whoever it is, if that person is dedicated, the power and the output that comes from this and the value that comes to the team is so organic that it almost seems like Synchro it's not even about the software anymore. This project has an interesting outlook, and I think it is something that other projects will start doing. And not only do they have a work breakdown structure in the schedule, but they have developed what they call a location breakdown structure. The location breakdown structure is a nice enabler for Synchro, because now we think of things in terms of workspace, not only in terms of activity code, and now we can organize the planning of our project based on workspace. And this isn't something we came up with, this is something Turner PCL came up with for this project, and it is really creating a lot of value. This is their basic workflow. It's not that unusual, but if you're not doing it this way, and maybe you're new to Synchro, since we literally haven't talked about how does Synchro work, and maybe you're new to Synchro. They take data from primarily Revit, Civil 3D, and different models from fabricators and contractors. They federate it all in Navisworks to do design reviews and model federation, and then they import into Synchro from Navisworks using our plugin. Speaking of plugins, you're all probably familiar with our plugin. I want to plug This little tool by PCL, I don't have any affiliation with them. They're a great contractor. They developed a tool called PCL Parts Lab that actually does fantastic subdivision work in Revit in preparation for construction level planning. Check it out. So this project, this is at the beginning stages of the project. Again, this is a massive model. They have a model of the existing terminal, and they have a Revit model of the entire new terminal. They are going through the use of these models to visualize upcoming work. And as you'll see in my next few slides, in terms of work process, So we'll just show a little bit of the model. The result of this is a daily situation at this project. Synchro's on a monitor, and different groups of people get together, and they're all looking at the model. And sometimes they get up and stand up and point at it and ask questions. They've identified some major conflicts in underground works already, because that's the stage of the project right now. This is the normal occurrence. This is everybody's head is looking at the screen. Think about that. These guys here are managers. So the previous one was the team. Then the managers themselves, they get together and amongst themselves, they wear nicer shirts, I think. And they do the same thing. They're doing the same thing. No difference. One more example. We're going to move into the infrastructure realm, industrial infrastructure realm. I want to talk about a hydroelectric power station. This one is called the Kiosk Project. It is in northern Canada. It's like almost the North Pole. And it's a massive project that's been going on. They're going through a rebaselining effort right now, or over the last few months. And that rebaselining effort has turned to Synchro to help get this project back on track. And they've asked our group for help, particularly Amir, who I alluded to, and then Jacqueline and also Mazel. This is a team effort. This project is actually going through the process of planning in Synchro. So think about it. Now we get beyond we may as well stop using the word 4D when we talk about Synchro, because it is 4D. But it is a scheduling tool. It is not a 4D visualization tool. These guys, on a multi-billion-dollar project in Canada, are planning the schedule of multiple thousands of activities in Synchro. Let's just show one great animation that I'm allowed to show. It's always a challenge in these kind of situations is to not sort of inadvertently show something that was confidential, because it's very tempting sometimes. So for those of you that are working or involved in industries that are what they call horizontal industries, not vertical industries, 4D or Synchro are used in horizontal industries, and it's very powerful. And you're going to see the evolution of construction of what we call a powerhouse for this project very shortly, and you will see a lot of concrete being placed. And the cost of that concrete placement is huge. And think about one thing too on this project is they literally can only do construction about 7 months out of the year, because the rest of the year it's really cold and it's not conducive to construction. So they have to organize their entire plan around that fact, and it makes things even a lot more complicated. So when this video goes dark in the background, that kind of means that nothing's going on. Creating schedule variance. by the way, the output here, this is not Irate. It looks fantastic, so you don't have to think that you have to use Irate to get fantastic output, because you don't. You just get a different kind of fantastic output. These models are all coming from Bentley MicroStation primarily, so again, we work with a lot of softwares, and some of them are more difficult to use than others, and that should not be a barrier to diving in, and we can help with that. That's one of the things our group does, is we have experts in different types of software. Okay. But the thing about this project is actually even more interesting, really, is that this is a project where they developed what's called a 4D implementation plan, and it's authored by BBE, or a partnership between Bechtel, Barner Construction, and Elastan Construction. And this implementation plan for a long-term project is really a critical thing that you want to think about, because you've all heard about BIM execution plans, but a 4D implementation plan is going to enable the team, the project, to continue effective use of the software as it works with other tools, and the people on the project through the life cycle of the project is going to give them instructions on how to do it. And they're doing that. But even more so, what's really been exciting about this work is, from what I've seen, it's the first time a major corporation has taken what they've learned from this and has begun to develop a strategy for corporate-wide adoption of 4D as a planning tool through the development of a guide that's become what's called a procedure, which means it's actually got some enforcement behind it, that projects in this company, when they do their planning, will look to Synchro and will have a guide to use in terms of the how, in terms of how to go about doing this, what needs to be done to execute this job. This is corporate-wide adoption. So this is what I see as the future, in the very near future, is a continued focus in this area. And so what we see is, again, pictures of people. This fellow on the right, he's the project director of a multi-billion-dollar hydroelectric dam project. He's the project director. He's a senior vice president. And this woman with him, she is the chief scheduler. Now think of how good she feels standing next to the project director talking about her schedule with Synchro. I would venture to say she feels a lot better in this scenario than she does with a stack of output from P6. So if you're a planner or involved with planners, this really makes you feel better about your job. So I'm hoping 5 minutes, because Tom took my schedule variance. And I want to talk a little bit more about not just projects, but the way we help expand the power of Synchro to not only ourselves but our customers through the layers of sophisticated tool sets that are currently in the software and are certainly evolving, especially in the next build that you'll hear more about. And this happens through customer engagement. So a lot of what we hear from customers, we roll into, we roll it up to Greg, and he rolls it to product developers, and the nimbleness and speed at which innovation is happening in this company, I would say, for sure, is exceeding virtually all companies I've ever seen in terms of actually taking what customers want and need and getting it into the software. And a lot of that comes through really kicking the tires, and that's part of what our team's job is to do. So I want to talk first about what I would call a soft innovation, because in many ways, this should not be an innovation, but it is. It's beyond me why people that work in pool planning do not use 4D as part of pool planning. Why would you not want to visualize what you've just done with all those sticky notes? So if you look at the left side of the screen, the sticky notes are on the board. It's part of the process. But they're not looking at them anymore. They're looking at what the 4D model is showing based on the decisions they've made for the pool planning process. To me, this is a no-brainer, and it should not be innovative, but I would say because it's new, it's innovative. So Shao, one of our guys that I mentioned at the Los Angeles Airport project, put together a little flow chart in terms of explaining how they currently work in 4D with pool planning. This is just a start, because what this shows is we've got the trades and the superintendent and what we call a 4D guy together in these early stages. We view the results of the stages in Synchro, We decide if our schedule is okay, at which point we move on and pump the schedule back to the scheduling program. And if we find problems, we go back and cycle back with this process amongst these people. And this is how it works. But this is just stage one. Remember, he's only been there for 2 to 3 months. The next stage is to plan in Synchro. So instead of handing the schedule back, let's start working in this environment and get it better and better as everybody participates. And that will happen next. This is Shawa. He's now working with the guys in the field. They're paying attention. They're not out in the field. They're paying attention. I want to talk about safety. Safety, everybody talks about safety. At Bechtel, safety was the most important thing, right? A lot of contractors, safety is the most important thing. But who the hell measures it? And the thing is, what are we doing early in the stages of a project to make it better? Construction companies do a lot at the job site to make it better, but I would venture to say they do relatively little at the beginning to make it better. In this project in Texas, this is a Bechtel project, this is a liquefied natural gas plant, but the focal point of the implementation of EDC is on the construction of what's called an LNG tank. And you would think an LNG tank is not that complex a project. It costs $1 billion to build an LNG tank. It's incredible. These guys we've talked about Synchro, we've shown this image, they are participating, they are using it, they are sharing in it. They are also doing some more innovation, which is integrating drone data with a 4D model, with the Synchro model, and using that information to help improve their planning. This is happening on the job. And they also are doing creation of videos. The videos are based on the schedule, but the focus of the videos is to train the workers and inform them of risks and hazards that they could be confronting out in the field before they get out in the field. And by using the 4D, you can take advantage of the time element as it plays a role in this process. And you can also take advantage of the tool sets in Synchro that enable great analysis of workspace, great analysis of 3D paths, great analysis of tool sets that help provide not just schedule, but also associated information. And this model is very complex. There is rebar in this model. You're looking at projected crane overlapping scenarios that you need to be aware of. They're going to make about 20 of these videos. This is just the first one. So these guys are committed to making videos to help plan safety on this project. And this is just a quote from the construction manager. You can read it. It's all about risk. On these kind of projects, it's all about avoiding risk. This one here is a powerful example that I'm running short on time. But this one here is an example of the power of what we call calculated user fields. And the power of think about Synchro now. It's not 4D here. Now we're getting into resource management. We're getting into what a lot of people would refer to as 5D. When you think about it, how can you do 5D without 4D? If you don't have a schedule, how is it meaningful? What we're using here is a tool set that's called Synchro Script. We've created a parameter that will align the quantities of the volumes of concrete that are coming in from the BIM model. So the BIM model provides this metadata in, Synchro absorbs it. Now we can use that BIM data or that metadata to organize calculated volumes. We can assign them as planning units using calculated user fields. And the result of all this is now I can see my schedule in terms of volumetric pour of concrete per month per task. There is no other program that can do this. And we can show you how to do it. So now I'm actually looking at my data in Synchro. As I visualize the construction sequence, I can now look at my expected planned pour volumes for my tasks, display them by month, and then I can export that data, for instance, to Excel, and go to Excel, create. This is going to blow your mind. Okay. Create histograms of resource tracking or planned resource for the project through the time cycle of the project, through the periods of the project.
Or if you have to report the information in P6, export it back to P6. But by doing it this way, you've now automated the process based on the data coming from BIM, using Synchro as the enabler to do that, to pump that back to Excel or back to P6, and eliminate all that manual effort that's required to type in all this information. Okay. We mentioned Crossrail. I want to go quickly through Crossrail, even though it's very exciting. This model, again, a very BIM-centric project that is using Synchro, especially the mobile app called Site, in a very productive manner. Yeah. So you saw a little bit of this image here. These guys are out there every day. Now, what wasn't mentioned in the previous example is, well, why are they, what is the output of this? What is the return on my investment? iPads are cheap, but the effort involved in, undergoing any new process, there's a cost involved. And I can just say that the return on investment here is a dramatic reduction of full-time equivalents of field engineers that are tracking the progress of installed MEP equipment. Dramatic reduction. And so there is tremendous savings associated with this work, and there's also the added transparency of understanding exactly what your contractors are doing based on reporting from the field. And the type of output they produce is reported up to the senior management of the contractor in terms of visual data from Synchro Site that's converted into tables that compares plan versus actual, so that when they get their bill from the contractor, they know exactly how much to pay them. And finally, this is my last example. I just can't stop though, I'm too excited. What can I tell you? So again, Greg mentioned that the core, the hub of our technology now is this workgroup platform. And I will show you an example of what the power of that really means. When you think about the integration of Synchro Pro, 4D authoring software, the tool that's managing all your schedule and your resources, Synchro Workgroup, which is the collaboration environment that enables all participants to get into that model, and Synchro Site, which is your technology that brings the data from the field back to that model literally in real time. And for this one, I think I might have this one done with audio.
In this video, we're going to look at how you can use the mobile application.
So if you download this video, you're going to get
accurately track the statuses of your resources and tasks and get a clear understanding of your ongoing construction project. So in this window, I have Synchro Pro open with the Gantt chart on top and two 3D views. On the right, the 3D view will show us how the project is going to be built. So as I move the focus time, we can get an idea of the sequencing of the work. And then on the left, we have the resource status colors view, which will show us the colors according to the status of each resource. So for example, here we have form, reinforced, place, and strip for concrete statuses. And if I look at the model, I can quickly tell the status of each resource, or I can click on, for example, this shear wall, and know that it was reinforced on the 28th and stripped on the 30th by looking at the status history. Now we've also created some custom user fields, for example, for percent complete for each resource, and these are according to a rule of credit formula. So if we go to user fields and go to percent complete resource and check the formula, it says that when the status set is concrete, form will assume it's at 25%, reinforce is at 50%, place is at 75%, and strip is at 100%. And then we also have some task user fields, for example, percent complete for the task, which does a weighted average of the percent complete for the resources when it's an FPS task. And when the activities are separated, like reinforce, pour, and strip, then we'll make use of additional user fields such as is formed, is reinforced, or is placed to do a weighted average for those as well. And then we have some model quantities like the concrete volume, the poured volume, which for place activities is the percent complete times the volume, and then the cubic yards per day. Now let's look at the mobile application Synchro Site and see how we can status resources from there. So this is the iPad screen being shown at the window here. And if we zoom in, we can either click on a task to find the resource or click on a resource directly and then choose the task. Now resource statuses are independent of task statuses. We can do both in Site, but generally resource statuses is done in Site and then task statuses are done in Synchro Pro. So this wall is already stripped. I can go to another wall, for example, this one over here, and change the status to strip. And we'll see that there is one pending change here that will not go to Pro unless I hit the synchronize button. Let's status some more resources before doing that. If I go to the shear wall over there, I can click on that one and make it placed. And then I can go, for example, to these shear walls over here and hit edit all to select all at once and click on strip. And maybe that's enough for now. We can look at here the pending changes. These have not yet been transferred to Pro. And I'll move the window over here so we can see what happens. Now I'm going to deselect this in Pro so we can also have a clear idea. Now as I hit this button, the changes will go immediately to Pro, but then the iPad will try to reload the model so it's getting the latest updates from other iPads if multiple users are statusing the model. So I'll click now and you can see immediately the statuses went there. Now for calculated user fields, for example here, you see that the status changed immediately, but the calculated user fields have to be recalculated. So we can go to Home, recalculate user fields, and it updates. And then we can easily export these to Excel and generate some reports. Just go to File, Export, Microsoft Excel, and then you can do the tasks alone, and then do bar charts, or the resources, and then do VLOOKUP and use this for different accounting purposes.
So this was a great demo of site if you've never seen it before. But the real power beyond it is that Amazon, with some clever work with the Synchro toolsets, has created an ability to track task status based on resource status. So if I have a construction team that's simply tagging resources and changing their color, I can actually go back and have this updated schedule, which is rather amazing. Okay. So I'm basically done. I want to conclude with a few quotes from people that are out there working with us. So sometimes I actually write these things down. 4D brings everything to the surface. The 4D guy knows everything about the project with Synchro. I know the schedule better than anyone else. I never really saw much value in 3D until I saw it in 4D. P6 is functionally unnecessary. And finally, I suggest that anyone using Synchro for schedule planning, try using it for showing key risks to gain even more value from 4D. So I just want to say thank you very much. And if anybody has questions, talk to my people.